Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah al-ali al-azim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina wa nabiyyina Abil Qasim al-Mustafa Muhammad. وآله الطيبين الطاهرين لا سيما بقية الله في الأراضين أجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف وجعلنا من أعوانه وأنصاره. I am very delighted to be here with you in such an important time in the month of Sha'ban and in the eve of the 15th of Sha'ban, which according to Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, it is the night which is the greatest night after Laylatul Qadr. So in Islamic calendar, the most important night is Laylatul Qadr, and after that the night of 15th of Sha'ban, which is by itself a very blessed and a special night, and Allah chose it as a container, as a time for birth of his last Hujjah. So this adds to the significance of this night. So I'm very delighted to be here with you in such important time. What I would like to share with you is few points about methods and manners of connecting to Imam Mahdi Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif in the time of Ghayba or occultation. This is very important issue for us. Maybe this is the most central issue for us actually in the time of Ghayba, to know how to connect to our Imam, how to benefit more from having an Imam who is alive, who is active, who is guiding, who is spreading the blessings of Allah to humanity and to the whole creation. How we can connect better to Imam alayhi salam. In the time of Ghayba, there is no such a thing as a person or a place that acts as a medium between us and Imam alayhi salam necessarily. No one can claim that I have regular access to Imam. I am a gate or bab, as we call it in Arabic, for Imam alayhi salam. You come to me and I will pass on your message to Imam alayhi salam, or I receive the message from Imam and pass on to you because I have a special access. There is no such a thing. Unfortunately, sometimes we hear from some ignorant people, sometimes even in very holy places, that claim to be the gate of Imam al-Hujjah. Some of them right now in Iraq claim such position. In the history also we have had such thing. But this is totally unacceptable. They have not understood what is the whole philosophy behind Ghayba. In the time of Ghayba, especially when we entered major occultation, there is no such a possibility of someone claiming that he has regular access to Imam and he can communicate the will of Imam to us and back and forth. The whole idea of Ghayba is now we have entered an era that more than anything else, our deep sense of responsibility, our maturity, our wisdom, and our scholarship are there to help us to understand the will of Imam. Through marja'iyah, through scholars, we can form a sound collective opinion of what Imam wants, according to the best of ijtihad. But no one can say, no, literally I have received this message from Imam and this is what you have to do. This means they are taking us back to the era before Ghayba. In this time, it is true that we are more challenged because we are not receiving direct, literal communications. But actually this challenge is because we are going, inshallah, higher in our understanding and commitment. As we have in many hadiths, for example, from Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam, that the Shia in the time of Ghayba are the best of people of all times. أفضل أهل كل زمان. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them so much of ma'rifah, so much of understanding, that for them Ghayba and shuhud are the same. So we are in the time of Ghayba, but we should have that much of understanding that seeing Imam or not seeing Imam would not make difference. And now all of a sudden a person comes and says, I have access to Imam, you don't use your ijtihad, you don't refer to your maraji, not to ulama. I tell you what you are supposed to do, means taking us back. In any case, there is no such a thing that one person would represent Imam in a specific way. We don't have Nawab Khas in this era. There is no also such a thing that there is a place, a particular place that you go and visit to see the Imam or to do ziyarah of Imam. For Imam Mahdi, we don't have such a place. Yes, there are places that can be relating us better to Imam. But it's not that Imam has a particular shrine or particular residence that you go. He can be anywhere in the world. So, no physical residence as such is there for Imam. No specific representation is for Imam as such in the way that I explained. It's all a matter of your heart and your mind being trained and educated to be always feeling deep connection to Imam. If people visit a personality, it helps them to have an encounter with that personality, but it doesn't guarantee that they are really meeting heart to heart. Sometimes we are in presence of someone, but we are thinking about something else. Or we are so much different in our understanding, in the level of our understanding, that just we have physical encounter. Suppose a person who doesn't know anything about a field of study, for example, someone doesn't know anything about philosophy, and he meets a great philosopher. What type of encounter can be there? There is a physical encounter, but not intellectual encounter. In the time of Ghayba, there is no physical chance for most of people to encounter Imam alayhi salam. But there is all chance to have a spiritual and intellectual encounter with Imam. And this is what I want to talk about. How can we develop deep connection to Imam of our time through our understanding and through our spirituality, so that we feel his presence, we can understand his will. In Dua Ahd, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to include us, the people who implement his commands. Al-mumtathalin al-awamir. So it means that he has commands for us that we should implement. But also, we say, as-sabiqina ila iradatihi. Those who not only implement his commands, but they actually proceed in doing what he wants. Maybe not yet expressed as a command. It's not amr, it's irada. There's a big difference between amr and irada. Amr is a command which is expressed in a formal way, but irada might be still not expressed. Irada can be in the heart. And we should be people who understand the will of Imam, even if it is not spoken, even if it is not expressed. So how can we have that level of understanding and connection to Imam alayhi salam? One key aspect of this is ma'rifah. As much as possible, we should invest on educating ourselves about Imams in general, the Hujjah of Allah in general, and Imam Mahdi ajjalallahu ta'ala farajahu sharif in particular. We should not be satisfied with basic information. We should not feel that we can graduate from this important subject by reading few books or taking some lessons in madrasa or listening to some lectures. We should not even be satisfied if we, for example, have lots of programs like celebrations or events. These are not enough. We need very well organized, structured understanding of Imam of our time. We need to read the best books available, to learn from the best scholars in the field, because the greatest chance for encounter with Imam in this time is through ma'rifah. There's nothing like ma'rifah, nothing like understanding that can connect you to Imam alayhi salam. As I said, there is no place and there is no person that as such represents Imam. It's through your heart and mind that you should connect to Imam all the time and in all circumstances. So we should keep learning, studying, discussing, reviewing, sharing, answering to the questions, refuting objections, so that we have a fresh and vibrant and a strong understanding of Imam of our age. But also, Imam cannot be known unless you try to resemble his character. You cannot know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and disobey him. You cannot know Imam and disobey Imam. You cannot be a follower of Amirul Mu'mineen and have akhlaq of Muawiyah. You cannot be a Shia of Hussein and having akhlaq of Yazid. It's impossible. So at the same time that we add to our understanding of Imam alayhi salam, we should try to develop virtues. A real follower of Imam follows him in his or her character, so that his or her character would resemble Imam alayhi salam, not ideally or perfectly, but at least some resemblance, at least some fragrance of Imam should come from our presence. So much emphasis has been put in our hadith on intizar, about obedience. If you read our hadith about intizar, you see the concept of obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to Imam is very much highlighted. Among traits of character that we need to develop so that we have the best encounter with Imam, I would like to mention two, which are very important. One is to overcome selfishness. In my understanding, there is nothing like ego. There is nothing like selfishness that can keep us away from Imam alayhi salam. No matter what's your age or gender or job or qualifications. With ego, you cannot be close to Imam. Our greatest problems are caused by ego. And there are lots of different types of ego. Ego as a person, ego as a family, as a tribe, as a sect, as ethnicity, any kind of ego. We have to be trained from childhood. And when you are mature, you keep training yourself. So first parents and teachers, but then you yourself should constantly work on your combat with ego. You cannot have ego and be obedient to Imam. You cannot have ego and be all the time with Imam. If you have ego, maybe in the times of ease, maybe in the times of benefiting, you would be with Imam, but not all the time. Not in all trials. And the second thing that I would like to highlight is to wish the best for everyone. The Hujjah of Allah has no ego and wishes the best for everyone. Your soul has to be so generous that in your wish, in your prayer, in your activities, you just want everyone to excel. You want everyone to improve, everyone to be in the best condition that they have potentiality to be in that condition. So I would like to highlight on these two things. Highlight these two things. Then there are a few ways or aspects that we should try to always think about it, do it, so that we have remembrance of Imam alayhi salam as a manifestation of remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because remembering Hujjah of Allah is remembering Allah. Remembering blessings of Allah is remembering Allah. And because time is very short, I just mention a list, and inshallah maybe another time we can explore more. One is tawassul. We should call upon Imam. This can be through ziyarah. We have a very beautiful ziyarah that actually Imam himself taught, ziyarat al Yasin. This ziyarah is taught by Imam, and Imam says whenever you want to pay attention to Allah and to us and through us to Allah, you recite this ziyarah. This is a very good way of remembering Imam and remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There are lots of beautiful ideas in that ziyarah. Du'a faraj, du'a nudbah, salat of Imam Zaman. These are few important ways of connecting to Imam by calling upon Imam and by asking Allah through Imam to bless us. In addition to these, your own personal ways of praying for Imam, in your own language, in the way that you feel more connected and more related, pray for Imam, give sadaqah for Imam, do something good for Imam. Another thing is to promote love for Imam and remembrance for Imam in a wise way. Sometimes people think that by putting name of Imam everywhere, putting banners everywhere, we are doing something good. Not necessarily. We have to look at the result. Sometimes actually talking too much can have negative impact. We have to see in a wise way what's the best way to make people love Imam and open their hearts for Imam and connect to Imam. And for different people, for Shia, for Sunni, for non-Muslim, we should have different strategies. For different age groups, we should have different strategies. But in all these things, our aim is to develop more understanding, more openness, and finally more love for Imam alayhi salam. And something which is very, very important is, in addition to all these things, we have institutions and personalities that they help us connect to Imam alayhi salam. We have to be grateful to Allah for having these institutions and these figures, and we have to safeguard them. Our hawzas, our maraji', our scholars, these are things that connect us and have throughout the history connected us and saved us. If we want to be moving closer to Imam alayhi salam, we cannot fail appreciating these things. Anyone who loves Imam Zaman should love Maraj, should love Hawzas, should love our scholarship, should love member, should love our Husayniyas, our masajid, our shrines, because these are the institutions that connect us to Imam alayhi salam. And anyone who shows lack of respect or appreciation to these figures, these roles, these institutions, shows at least lack of wisdom. The minimum I can say is lack of wisdom. I hope there is no ego involved. I hope there is no prejudice involved. At least we can say this is lack of experience and wisdom, that we deprive ourselves and next generations from institutions that have kept us on the right track. Inshallah, that will never happen. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to include us among the people that constantly work on themselves, by educating themselves, by training themselves, by working against their ego and opening their hearts so that they can get closer to Imam of our time. Ajjalallahu ta'ala farajahu sharif. Thank you very much. Wa akhiru da'wana and alhamdulillah rabbil alamin.